It was a quiet Wednesday afternoon when Arthur, a modest inventor living in a small English town, received a peculiar letter. It was sealed with a strange emblem, unlike any he had ever seen before, two intersecting circles with a dot in the middle. Arthur examines the letter, puzzled. The letter's message was brief but baffling. "Greetings, Earthling. I come from Mars. Prepare for the arrival of a most important guest. Expect me by the stroke of midnight. Zarlok." Arthur blinks twice, rubs his eyes, and looks again. Arthur Zarlok, from Mars. Arthur glances over at the teapot on his stove. Arthur must be a prank. Yet there was something in the letter's tone that struck him as genuine. The stamp was an official interplanetary design, he assumed, and the handwriting was unlike anything he had ever seen, as if it had been written in a hurried, otherworldly script. Arthur, midnight. At least I'll have a good story to tell.
Welcome.
But as the day wore on, Arthur couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something strange was in store. At exactly 11:58 p.m, there came a loud knock at his door. Arthur froze. He glanced around his modest flat, checking that everything was in order. He was a simple man, given to simple pleasures, an evening by the fireplace, a pot of tea, and the occasional dabbling in quirky inventions. Arthur takes a deep breath and opens the door. A tall, thin figure stands in front of him, dressed in a suit made of shimmering silver fabric that seems to ripple with the night sky. The figure has large eyes that glow with a faint ethereal green. "Zarlok, good evening. I am Zarlok of Mars." Arthur, his mouth hanging open, blinks. "Arthur, you're real Zarlok?" "Indeed I am, and I must say you were most punctual in your preparations." Arthur can only stare. "Zarlok?" I must confess I had hoped to arrive with a bit more fanfare, but the transportation was less than reliable. "Arthur, you came here by transportation?" "Zarlok. Indeed, a most remarkable invention I've built myself, although I do believe I've overshot the landing by a few miles." Arthur's mind races. "Arthur, so you're really from Mars? Not just some, I don't know, a prankster in a costume?" Zarlok chuckles. "Zarlok, I assure you I am as Martian as they come, but your perception of me is limited. I come with a message, an important one, that must be delivered by the stroke of midnight." Arthur glances at the clock. 11:59 p.m. "Arthur, what is the message?" Zarlok smiles. "Zarlok, but I must first offer you a small token of our advanced civilization before I reveal the secret. A demonstration of sorts, if you will." Before Arthur can protest, Zarlok pulls out a small, glowing device from his pocket. He presses a button, and with a sudden, gentle whir, the walls of the room begin to shimmer and distort. Arthur gasps. The teapot on his stove begins to levitate, spinning slowly in the air. The teapot floats in the air for a few moments before Zarlok flicks his wrist and it gently lands back onto the stove. Zarlok. "This, my dear Arthur, is a simple gravity modifier. We Martians have perfected such technologies long ago. For you, a simple demonstration." Arthur's mouth hangs open as he stares at the teapot. "Arthur, you made it float? That's impossible." Zarlok gives him an amused glance. "Zarlok, impossible? My dear fellow, nothing is impossible once you understand the basic laws of the universe." He snaps his fingers, and suddenly, a chair in the corner of the room turns into a floating sphere of light, hovering just above the floor. Arthur stumbles back, knocking over a book on the shelf. "Arthur, this is madness. I've seen machines, but nothing like this." Zarlok chuckles. "Zarlok, yes, you humans have yet to grasp such simple concepts, don't you? Now let me share with you the most important part of my message." With a dramatic flourish, Zarlok produces a small silver scroll. He unfurls it with great care. "Zarlok, this is the fate of your planet." Arthur blinks. "Arthur, what do you mean, the fate of the planet?" Zarlok's voice grows solemn. "Zarlok, you see, Earth is on the brink of a great disaster, not from the usual causes, wars, climate change, or pestilence. No, this disaster will come from something far more unpredictable. Boredom." "Arthur, boredom? You're telling me that we're in danger of being bored to death?" Zarlok, "Precisely. You Earthlings have become too complacent, too comfortable. There is no curiosity left in your hearts, no exploration, and that, Arthur, is the greatest danger of all. Without curiosity, without the drive to seek and discover, you will stagnate, and when that happens, your civilization will wither and fade." Arthur stares at Zarlok, his mind racing. "Arthur, so what do you want me to do about it?" Zarlok shrugs dramatically. Zarlok, I came here to give you a simple task. Rediscover wonder. Inspire curiosity. Only by rekindling the human thirst for discovery will your species survive. Arthur frowns, pacing back and forth. Arthur, well, that's a bit much, don't you think? How do I even start? Zarlok smiles mysteriously. Zarlok, you're a clever man, Arthur. You'll figure it out. Just promise me this. Never stop exploring, never stop asking questions. A week passed since Zarlok's bizarre visit. Arthur, still processing the strange encounter, began to notice something odd. He was becoming more curious about everything around him. The world, once so predictable, suddenly felt filled with mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Arthur starts to build eccentric machines. Neighbors laugh as they watch him attempt to fly a self-constructed kite, create a perpetual motion machine, or invent a time-stretching tea kettle. His life, once ordinary, is now filled with absurd experiments. He begins to talk to people more, asking them about their dreams, their passions, their forgotten curiosities. To his surprise, Arthur's inventions, though flawed, began to spark interest in his town. People came to watch his contraptions, and soon others were building their own odd gadgets. It seemed the spirit of curiosity had returned. Arthur demonstrates a mood-changing hat. He feels a tap on his shoulder and turns around to see Zarlok again, his glowing eyes filled with approval. Zarlok! Well done, Arthur. You've reignited the spark of curiosity in your people. Your work here is done. Earth is saved, for now. Arthur chuckles. Arthur, I suppose a little madness was all it took. Zarlok nods. Zarlok, indeed. Perhaps all of us need a touch of madness to keep the world spinning. Zarlok vanishes once more, leaving Arthur with a world that is suddenly far more wondrous than before. As Arthur gazed up at the stars that night, he couldn't help but smile. Maybe there was something to that message from Mars after all.